Good morning and welcome to the Hawaii Board of Veterinary Medicine meeting. Before the meeting is called to order, we're going to play a short video to explain the procedures for this meeting and to explain how members of the public can participate and interact with board members.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking, as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras.
Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
So, to view the meeting and provide live oral testimony, please use the link at the top of the agenda. You'll be asked to enter your name. The board requests that you enter your full name, but you may also use a pseudonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You will also be asked for an email address, and you may fill in this field with any entry in an email format, for example, name@email.com. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about the agenda item. The chairperson will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chairperson, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking. If you cannot get internet access, you may get audio-only access by calling the Zoom phone number listed at the top of the agenda. Upon dialing the number, you'll be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is also listed at the top of the agenda. After entering the meeting ID, you'll be asked to either enter your panelist number or wait to be admitted into the meeting. You will not have a panelist number, so please wait until you are admitted into the meeting. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering star and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering star and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting have been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by presenting star and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you have been unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter star and then 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier would be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specified date and time, and this information will be provided on the board's website. So at this time, I will take roll call. So members, when I call your name, please respond with present or here. And since we don't have anyone joining us from Zoom, you don't need to press that. So Dr. Craig Nishimoto, licensed member. Dr. Lisa Wood, licensed member.
Present.
Eileen Wada, public member.
Present.
And myself, Marcella Chalk, chair, is also present. So I will now call the meeting to order and the time is
Good time.
10:12 a.m. So we don't have any new members present.
Yeah, so just move on to
Okay.
minutes.
Okay, so I'm gonna, moving on to our agenda item. This would be the approval for the October 23rd, 2024 open session and executive session meeting minutes. Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony on this particular agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. There is no one wishing to provide testimony.
Thank you. Okay, are there any corrections or amendments to these minutes, either the open session or executive session? For hearing, there is none. May I have a motion to accept the minutes? May I have a second?
Go ahead.
Second. Any opposed? Since there's no one opposing, motion carried forward. So, second agenda item is the first and so none of the new members are present. So we'll move on to agenda item number 3. Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony on agenda item 3?
Thank you, Chair. There is no one wishing to provide testimony.
Thank you. So since there's no concerns regarding the license fees to be ratified, may I have a motion to ratify the issued and reserved licenses listed here in agenda item 3?
Here, I think we need to read off the names for anyone online. I know there's no one there, but if someone watches the video later, they need to know
Okay.
who's being ratified.
So as far as the agenda item 3, the list of the names there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have ratification of the issued and licenses for Whitney Ferguson, Tiari Takaesu, Emily Van Rice, Shauna Fujita, Mallory Roses, Dominic Becky, Nathan Wright, Liam Iverson, Terry Tuck, Stephanie Jones, Anna Foster, Joelle Bella Larcy, and Judy Rydell.
I move that we ratify aforementioned veterinarians in item B.
Second. Any opposed? Since there's no opposition, the motion is carried forward.
And don't forget the restored license, not item D.
So we do have one restored license, thank you personally, for Bruce Birch. Do we have a motion to accept the restored license for Mr. Bruce Birch?
Move to accept.
You have a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Since no one's opposing, then the motions move forward. So the next agenda item is the executive officer report.
Yes.
Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony for agenda item 4?
Thank you, Chair. There is no one wishing to provide testimony.
Thank you. Harry, would you be able to present exam results?
Yes.
And follow
So I've provided a copy of the October and November test results for you. In October, there were 8 candidates to take the exam. 6 passed and 1 failed. And in November, there were 7 candidates for the exam and all 7 passed.
Question.
Yes.
So you gave 8, 6 pass, 1 fail. Isn't that 7? So 1 no show?
I'm sorry, one person was a no-show.
I can.
Yeah, you are correct.
I can look at the number, this is something is missing.
Yeah, one person did not show up.
Okay,
That was approved. If you're, okay with, if you're fine, I'll go on with an update from the questions from last meeting regarding the exam. At our last exam, the board was interested to know how many people passed first attempt, second attempt, et cetera. And then also you had some questions about what test questions are the most frequently missed. I'd like to preface my remarks by saying the test administrators have informed me that until you have at least 100 individuals take your exam, any results are not, you shouldn't build any moving forward or changing anything until you have at least 100 people take it, because you don't have a wide enough pool to see actual patterns yet. So with that said, we've had 42 individuals take the exam since we've changed to the new exam. So we really don't have a good sampling yet of to make any changes. So 42 individuals. Of that, 6 individuals failed the first time around. Hi.
Hi, we're Dr. Hummel and Dr. AC.
Awesome, awesome. We'll stop for a moment while you get seats. We'll pull up another chair.
So Dr. Hummel, sit and then participate during this.
Okay.
Dr. AC, did you bring your oath of office? Were you able to get it signed?
I was not able to get it.
Not a problem. We can get it signed here later today, but we'll find you a spot.
Hi, I'm Marcella.
Tiffany, nice to meet you.
There you go. Sit here by Miss Wada.
Yes.
Hi,
Especially
welcome.
on your first
Lisa.
first one.
Nice to meet you. Dr. AC. AC. Gabby. AC. Yes.
So- So just very quickly, so you know who everyone is, this is Mark. He is one of our very fabulous secretaries here in the division. He's helping us now. Dr. Hummel, who is here on Oahu, yes.
Yes.
Dr. Chalk, who is our chairperson. She is a pharmacist,
Public member.
public member. Dr. Nishimoto from Kauai, who is a licensed member of the board. Miss Eileen Wada, who is a real estate broker, did I have that right? Who is one of our public members. Dr. AC, I'm gonna get that right one of these days.
It's like ACDC.
Now I got it. Dr. AC, who is also on Oahu,
Yes.
a new licensed member. Dr. Wood, who is a licensed member from Hawaii Island. And this is Sherry Wong, our Deputy Attorney General. And I'm the executive officer for the board. I'm Carrie Shahan. So we were, if you have your agendas, we were on item number 4. We had just given them the results of the October and November exams, and I was doing a follow-up from some questions from the last meeting that they had regarding the exam. To preface it for 2 new members, we started in mid-April with new exam questions. The exam had been reviewed and test questions were updated. There was new test questions developed, and so we started those new test questions in April. I was telling the board that the test administrator has let us know that till you have at least 100 individuals take an exam, there's really no patterns yet. You really can't make any assessment of your new exam until at least 100 people take it. And with that said, we had 42 test takers, 42 individuals, of which only 6 had failed the first time they took the test. Starting in May. These numbers start in May. I didn't ask them to figure out who took the old exam and who took the new examination. So these numbers start in May. So only 6 had failed the first time. Let me restate, that's wrong, I'm sorry. Six of the people who failed did not retest in that time period. So 6 of them failed but didn't retest. Of the 42, 29 passed their first time around. There we go. There's the number you wanted. 29 passed the first time around. 6 of the people who failed did not retest. 5 people passed the second time. And 2 people failed their second time that they retested. So 29 passed the first time. 5 additional people passed the second time. So that's 29 and 5 is 34 out of 42. So that would equal out those percentages that you've been seeing. They did give me the top 4 questions that are failed. But again, you have to have at least 100 tests before you can really see if those are those going to remain the top 4, or is it going to flip by the time you have a good sample? So I don't want to send us into executive session to discuss them or look at them because they're not valid yet. So I don't think it would be a good use of the board's time to look at those questions yet because they could change. If you have more questions you'd like me to ask, or if you want me to bring this back after we have about 100 people who pass, who take the test, I'm certainly willing to do that, and we can do that probably be about this time next year. The numbers that are taking the test every month. So, the board would like me to bring that back next year, let me know now, so I can put it on my schedule.
Yeah, if you could,
Okay,
we'll review in a year.
okay. And follow up,
We'll review when we're at 100.
review at 100, okay.
Yeah.
Whichever comes first.
Or 1 year. First, okay. So that's my report there. Chair, I don't know if you want to go back and do the board orientation since we have 2 members, or if you'd like to wait until our next meeting when all 3 should be here. What would you suggest, Sherry? Would it be better to wait for all 3 of them or do it now?
I'm ready to just hand out my coffee stained copies. Well, 2 out of 3. I mean, it's not everybody, but at least it's
Okay.
some, I mean, they might miss next month
Okay,
or next meeting, so.
okay. All right, so do you want to do that now or go through the rest of the agenda and pop back?
We can just do that now then, I guess, yeah. So we just finished agenda item 4. So rather than moving to agenda item 5, let's move back to because agenda item 2 with introductions. So welcome for Dr. Hummel and Dr. Asi. AC. So basically, well, I guess with board orientation, agenda item 2, I think I have to ask a question if there's anyone.
Yeah,
Any
just,
testimony?
you can ask if there's testimony.
Yeah, did anyone want to provide testimony on agenda number 2 for board orientation for 2 new members?
Thank you, Chair. There is no one who's provided oral testimony.
So go ahead and.
Review when you're doing minutes.
So let's start with the lesser size.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with
I tried to save paper, and basically a board or commission is like a it's like a small mini government. And you wear the 3 hats. I don't know if you remember your civics lessons: executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch. The executive branch, which we're in right now, is subject to the Sunshine Law, and that's Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 92. It's open to the public, or if people want to join remotely. All voting takes place in the open session, and you have open session minutes like what you voted on to approve earlier in the meeting. The executive session, there's very few limited reasons to close the open session and go into executive session. The 2 ones that are most pertinent to the professional vocational licensing boards are: number 1, to consider personal information relating to individuals applying for a license, and 2, to consult with your advising deputy attorney general regarding any laws or questions, legal questions. You can also consider in reviewing personal evaluation information, convictions rationally or directly related to the profession of veterinary medicine, and to assess whether there is sufficient evidence of sufficient rehabilitation. The second category that Terry and the board recently undertook was rulemaking. So you have administrative rules that dovetail with your revised statutes. So the revised statutes are done by the legislature, and they can only be amended or changed or repealed or added via the legislature, which convenes once a year during the spring. That's your HRS, your revised statutes, and the rulemaking is your administrative rules, which are supposed to flesh out the details and not conflict with the revised statutes. The third box is the judiciary hat, or so when you wear your judge's hat, so to speak, and it is in a different chapter of the law. So you recess into chapter 91. It doesn't have to be on the agenda because it's not subject to sunshine. And if there's oral argument, that would be in the open, like you see in court on TV. But when you deliberate and consider the merits of the discipline, you recess into like a judge's chambers, and so that's private. And the backside of the page is a more detailed flow chart of the disciplinary process. So this would be under judicial, when you take action or action is taken against the licensee, and it starts with a complaint that is generated. It can be from the consumer, it can be from another licensee, it can be from any source, and it's filed, received by RICO, which is the Regulated Industries Complaints Office. So they're your investigative and prosecutorial arm. The board can't investigate or prosecute on its own. It has like a prosecutor's office, and that's RICO. So they investigate, they send it to the legal section, a staff attorney reviews it. They close it if there's no jurisdiction or insufficient evidence, technical violation with no consumer harm. A civil remedy can be pursued by the consumer, or they issue an advisory letter. So that's in the top row. If not, sometimes you see settlement agreements presented to you in which they negotiate between the prosecutor, RICO, and the licensee. And those are negotiated between the two parties, so you are not able to change the terms of that settlement agreement. You can basically accept or not accept the settlement agreement. Sometimes it's pre-petition. Oftentimes, the licensee will not want to air the dirty laundry of allegations, so they don't want a petition. So they'll try to settle before a petition. That's pre-petition, and in which case, you might not get very much information in that pre-petition settlement agreement. If it's post-petition, you will able to see the petition as well as the settlement agreement. Again, it might be limited by how much the parties are able to make. Lastly, if it's a more serious case and they want to go to a full hearing and the prosecutor thinks it's worthy of going to a full hearing, there's a hearings office in the DCCA. There's a hearings officer, which is an administrative judge, and they hear both sides, just like a regular trial. RICO would be your prosecutor, licensee would be the respondent, and the hearing officers issues a recommended order with findings of fact, conclusions of law, and a recommended sanction. The parties are able to have oral argument on that recommended order, and then the board finally gets to consider whether it wants to change or accept or not accept the recommended order. And for recommended order after a contested case hearing, they are able to change the terms of that. If they increase the sanctions recommended by the hearings officer, they could do a proposed final order, in which case they also give due process again for exceptions, oral argument, statement in support. And in the end, they reach a board's final order that the licensee can appeal to the hearing, circuit court, First Circuit Court, if the licensee wants to pursue that. Are there any questions? Okay, that's about all.
So Sherry gets the easy, small part. I have to do all the long part. So this board was established by statute. So we are governed by our statute, which is chapter 471. You can find that on our website. The statutes are clarified and amplified by our administrative rules. And our administrative rules are, I forgot to write it down, so I don't know what our chapter is, but they're also there by our statute. 101, I believe. So this board consists of 7 members. 4 are residents of Oahu, City and County of Honolulu, and 3 are required to be residents of other counties. Hence Hawaii and Hawaii Island, and we have a new board member coming from Maui soon. 5 of the members are to be veterinarians who've been licensed to practice for at least 5 years and have been actively engaged in the practice of veterinary medicine, and 2 shall be publicans. So we are right on probably where we're supposed to be. The purpose of having licensed members on the board is so that they can utilize their knowledge and experience in conducting the board's business. But the board's foremost duty is to protect the health and safety of the public and not to protect the veterinary profession. From both an ethical and a legal perspective, the general rule is that state employees, including board members, normally do not engage in decisions in the area they are regulating, but there's an exception for board members because their participation is necessary for any matters that come before the board that affect the profession as a whole, such as applications, continuing education, scope of practice inquiries. Board members should recuse themselves from decisions on matters where the member or the member's clinic or employer are involved. It's also important to remember that for board members to remember that the primary purpose of the board is to promote the public interest and protect customers. Decisions need to be made with this purpose in mind. While the opinions of other entities may be of interest and inform a topic, the board's purpose remains to promote the public interest and protect the consumer, and board members should keep their decisions based on that purpose and the guidance of the rules and statutes. Keep your board hat on when you're making decisions for the board during board meetings. We require a quorum to make decisions, and so this is a 7-member board that we have to have at least 4 members. That's required to carry a motion or make any valid action on behalf of the board. The powers and duties of the board are enumerated in 471 HRS and 436B chapter HRS as well. Some of our principal responsibilities as board members are to grant licenses to applicants who meet the qualifications. The board reviews and ratifies licenses that satisfy all requirements and are ministerially issued by the staff. The board reviews and considers all applications that require licensure through experience or those applications that indicate an arrest, a conviction, or disciplinary action. So there's no issue with an application. Staff will issue a license, you'll ratify it at the meeting. If there's been an arrest or disciplinary action, the board will review that prior to a license being issued. The board can suspend or revoke any license and refuse to grant or renew, restore, or reinstate licenses for cause, and DAG Wong went over the process for that. The board issues informal non-binding interpretations of the statutes and rules regarding scope and general correspondence and inquiries. The board can adopt, amend, repeal administrative rules through the proper process, which is long and drawn out, and I'll discuss that in a little bit. All decisions of the board are recorded in our minutes, and they are required to be kept in written form, made available to the public. At each regular board meeting, the board must typically approve the minutes of the previous meeting. The board can enter into executive session to consider and evaluate personal information as DAG wants stated. I'm going to skip over that part because you already did all this good part. Thank you so much. Speaking of the legislature and how to amend our rules, the legislature does meet from mid-January to early May. The department must submit our proposed legislations by mid-November. So if we wanted to do something too late for this year, have to do it for next year. During the legislative session, the board discusses bills related to the profession and determines whether to support or oppose the bill. The executive officer will provide testimony, or we can have a board member present testimony if the board prefers that, to the legislature during hearings and conferences. Each bill must address only the items referred to in its title, and all bills obey the same process in the Senate and the House. All bills have 3 readings. After the first reading, the bill is assigned to an appropriate committee, and the committee can either pass without changes, they can pass with changes, or defer, or do a no vote. If the committee has passed the bill, it goes to second reading and then on to the finance committee. And if the finance committee passes the bill, it goes to a third reading, and then we'll cross over from the House to the Senate or from the Senate to the House, depending on where the bill was first introduced. If one house disagrees with the changes made in the other house, the bill goes to conference for deliberation. And if the conference comes to an agreement, the bill is referred for its final reading. After final reading, the bill is sent to the governor, who may or may not sign it into law. If the governor just doesn't sign it without vetoing it, it does go to becomes law, right? Yeah, I'm not sure I wrote that down. A governor's veto may only be overridden by a 2/3 vote in the House or the Senate. So in your packet, you got this handy dandy little 10 principles for highly effective board members. I'm not going to read it to you because I'm certain that you all know how to read. If you have questions, I'll try to answer them now, or you can email me after the meeting and I'll try to answer them, or refer you over to DAG long if it's outside my wheelhouse and I don't know the answer. And that's our board orientation, quick and sweet. Any questions? Nope.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Sherry.
While we're there, part of my board orientation was you should have your handy dandy 2025 meeting schedule. This is on calendar, but it is subject to change should something come up. Especially this first part, sometimes a bill gets introduced we're not aware is coming and we have to meet quickly to decide the board's position on it. So that's usually where it gets changed, or if we lose staff and we have to move a meeting because there's no one covered the meeting to do the technical side of it. So, but that's generally when we'll meet this year. Now I'm done.
Okay. We'll move on. So thanks, Carrie. So we'll move into I guess agenda item number 5. There being no correspondence, the review of agenda number 6.
Well, you have to ask.
Okay.
You have to ask. Even
So
though
agenda item number 5 being that there's no correspondence, but is there anyone who wants?
no, you have to ask for the, I'm sorry, I thought you meant the next one.
Oh,
Number
okay.
6, I'm sorry.
So that's, okay.
Yeah.
So moving into new business, is there anyone who would like to provide public testimony for agenda item 6A?
Here, there's no one wishing to provide testimony.
We don't need to move into executive session for
Well,
this.
we can start discussion and then the board can, if the board feels like they need to discuss with our DAG, then we'll move it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just there in case we need to.
Okay, so, so the licensee has submitted continuing education, a change company to AAVLD and USAHA. These are not currently board-approved CE providers. So the question would be, would the board accept the CE, and does the board wish to add these organizations to the list of our approved CE providers? So what's included in our packet is a description.
Yeah, so when I got those CEs, I went to the websites for the AAVLD, which is the American Association of Veterinary Laboratory Diagnosticians. And I printed off their vision and mission, information. And I also went to the USAHA, which is the, oh my God, all these United States Animal Health Association, and I did the same, did their mission statement and what they're about, to help you decide if these were entities you would accept CE from. If you are satisfied that these are reputable organizations and will offer the CE without further information, you can decide to accept them, or if you need more information, and you know who I can talk to, I'd be happy to reach out. I don't know if you're familiar with these organizations and could make a decision today or not.
I'm familiar with both. I have no reservations. I'm sure they can provide good CE, and I move that they be accepted.
You have a second? Any opposed? Since there's no opposition, motion carried forward to accept both of the under AABLD as well as the USAHA. So moving to item number 6B. Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony on agenda 6B on continuing education audit request?
Thank you, Chair. There's no one wishing to provide testimony.
Should, so I guess the question here for continuing audit request, the question is for 6B1 would be what constitutes within 1 year of the licensee's first renewal? So the board, basically is interpretation of 471-9, HRS section D, states that a licensee who has graduated from an accredited veterinary school within 1 year of the licensee's first license renewal shall not be subject to a continuing education requirement for the first license renewal. So currently we have,
Yeah, so we have two licensees, that, one who graduated, one graduated May 13, 2023, and one graduated June 7, 2023. They did not complete 20 hours of CE because they believe they were exempt through this, through item D. However, our renewal was June 30th, 2024, which is greater than a year from May 13th and greater than a year from June 7th. So the question is the within 1 year from the date of their graduation or from the month of their graduation? One person is about a month and a half, more than the 1 year, within 1 year, but the other person is like 16, 17 days over 1 year. So you get to decide what within 1 year means. Within, you know, the
I think the basis of this was you, as a student, you get the latest information in school, right? So theoretically, they do not need continuing education coming right out of school. So just out of question, so our terms for our license are 2 years, yeah? But this was, they had to prove in that 1 year?
That's how the rule was written that, or the statute was written that, within 1 year. So if you've been out of school for over a year, they wanted you to do the CE.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly, it's public.
But most states actually allow new grads to skip that first license cycle.
Yeah, that's,
Because they're so fresh with new information that they actually don't have to complete CE. I find it curious that we require them at all to have CE for that first license cycle, regardless of whether it's a 1 year or 2 year period.
And I would agree with the sentiment, but that's not how whoever worked on section 9 of the statute wrote it, and it went through the legislature. So without statutory change, it's within 1 year. So we have to decide what within 1 year means.
Do you have the statute?
It's
Yeah,
on the
it's on your-
last page of item 6B3.
In your packet, you should have the full text of 471-9. It's also on your agenda, section D. It's listed on your agenda. So
Well, this new ruling came into effect. How long has this been in effect?
the last update to this section was 2018.
So in other words, this requirement passed in 2018.
Probably yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
the 2018 legislation.
Right, so we're talking 5 years later.
Uh,
Now there is a whole question and problem of where the 1 year falls,
Well,
so.
this is the first time it's come up that someone who has graduated, who graduated so closely, but over the 1 year, has said, I didn't do my CE because I thought I was exempt.
They just happen to get audited.
Yeah, so we only audit like 5% of our licensees.
You know, I'm just trying to say, I mean, it's kind of curious, 5 years pass, and now we have a situation where, a person is saying, well, I didn't take it because I.
Right, so we do about a 5%
Okay.
random audit, just the computer grabs 5 licensees, 5% of the licensees for audit. And the computer does a pretty good job of going from people who've had a license for a really super long time to some new folks. But I remind the board that every licensee, when they apply, signs on their application, they sign where it says, I will follow these laws.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, yeah, okay.
It hasn't been changed, but this person did not, neither of these people applied over 5 years ago. So these laws would have been there for them to read. They said that they were going to abide by those statutes and
My
rules.
question is the timing.
Yeah, it's really
Well,
close.
the term is, of the license is 2 years.
Mhm.
it's more than.
So wouldn't it be valid to 2025,
This date.
their license?
Prior to.
So why are they
Yeah,
being
so they-
audited already?
So, no, they were licensed,
Even.
the first person was licensed in October 2023.
Right? But
So,
it's 2 years though.
I'm sorry, that's not when they were licensed.
May
Okay.
I'm sorry, June, is our renewal June 30th? 2024. So they were licensed October 2023, but license renewal was June 2024.
Oh, so they only was valid only for
like a
year.
year.
Yeah, so just a little
Just
less
because
than
of-
a year, yeah.
Because of the way
Yeah.
the renewal.
So they paid the half a licensing fee to, yeah. So these folks were both, had to renew in June, at the end of June. One person was licensed October 2023, one person was licensed in January 2024. But it doesn't matter when they were licensed, right? It matters
When they graduated.
when they graduated. It has to be within 1 year of their first renewal in order to be exempt.
But they're required to do 20 hours CE a year versus normal person would have.
Maybe
2
6
years.
months, depending on when they were licensed.
They don't even have the normal length of time to
To
make.
do
the
it
CE.
because of the statutes. June 30th, even numbered years sets that standard for everyone regardless of when you.
Yeah.
But we can't change the statutes.
Not easily.
That's not what's at the.
No,
debate
we
for
cannot change
today.
it.
Yeah.
I think it's more interpretation.
It's more.
It's the board's interpretation is, again, one person is over about half a month from within 1 year, and one person is over about a month and a half over 1 year, within 1 year. So the question for the board is, within 1 year, is that from the date they graduated? For example, the one person, May 13, right, he would have had to have done renewal before May 13, 2024, right? He went over year? Or is it that month? Is it within 1 year?
Of the June 2024.
What is the longest calendar day for both of them that could be interpreted? Just out of curiosity.
Within 1 year is May 13 and June 7. That's a year from when they graduated.
Yeah, so theoretically it's supposed to be within the anniversary of whatever becomes 1 year. Is within a year is a normal, I think, legal interpretation.
365 days.
365 days. Now granted, with the young ones, they think that maybe because they just graduated, it didn't even dawn on them, is my gut feeling, that they didn't even think about it. And then all of a sudden the clock comes and says, hey, come on, buddy, let's see what you're doing. If the board is gonna make any kind of decision, we just need to make sure that we make it where it will not be always used, but could be where it is the consensus of the current board looking at the situation that we believe and da.
Well, keep in mind that if this comes up at next renewal,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll go back and see what happened this renewal.
I know. So that's why I said, so what is our legal ramifications? Can we make some kind of a caveat statement to say that this is not to be construed as, setting the precedent, but it needs to be addressed, in other words, by the legislature, for more clarification, but.
Right, unless you have a change in your
Yes.
statutes that only the legislature can do. The most you can do, as Carrie says, is to interpret what does within 1 year of the license renewal be. So are you going to be expansive enough to say that anything in June of like 2024? So if he graduated or she graduated June of 2023, that's close enough? Or are you gonna be strictly, your graduation date was June 17? And the May 13 person is clearly beyond 1 year. So how expansive, how strict, how lenient, how broadly do you want to interpret 1 year? Because the fix, of course, is to change.
I know that, but whatever the board decides now, is there a possible, can we put a caveat to say that, it was basically only for this year, not to be used to determine.
No, you
precedent?
can't bind other boards.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, yeah, okay.
And every case is looked on, I mean, it's case by case assessment, but the board should try to be as consistent as possible and not be, she's my cousin's neighbor's friend and she should get.
Because I think it gets dangerous, because if we make a
Yeah.
decision today, it does set a precedent. And then in the future, if the same situation comes up, they're gonna reflect back.
Yeah, see,
And
that,
basically said it was done this way. So what we're asking is that, are we gonna have a grace period outside of this? And that's gonna be something you are gonna discuss, so whether or not we just stay with what.
So, legal counsel? So is it something that you think that the board, maybe to resolve it, is to give a grace period, 30 days?
Well, you can't give a grace period, right? Because it's written in there, it's within 1 year. So what the board needs to decide is, what does within 1 year mean? Does it mean the specific date the person graduated, or does it mean if they graduated in June, because our renewal is in June? If they graduated in June, the year before our renewal, doesn't matter what day in June.
And that gives them until the very end of June.
Right, so if they graduated June 1, that's still within a year because it's June. Or is it, no, they graduated June 1, renewal's not till June 30.
Yeah.
So that's what DAG Wong means by expansive. How expansive are you gonna be? Are you gonna be is it gonna be a narrow interpretation of the statute that within 1 year is within 365 days of the date they graduated? Or is within 1 year means within that May, June, or that June of the year before renewal?
Because I think real estate does not even touch live people. I believe we're fixed within 365. We have to renew or do whatever, otherwise we get dinged on our license, but this one is. So my question to the practitioners, I mean, how important is it that they follow whatever the current state laws that in the state that they're practicing? And is it really important for them knowledge-wise? I mean.
Personally, I think knowledge-wise, they have the knowledge. coming
So
out of
that's
school.
not an issue.
No.
It's probably just that they forgot to.
Oh, they did it. In this case, I don't think
Just
they
didn't
knew.
understand
Yeah.
the
All right,
interpretation.
got it. I mean, I'm trying to, figure out.
I agree with Craig. I think these kids come out with way more information than I ever had. And I would be in favor of making the ruling as exempt.
Can you go over what their quote penalty is because they haven't obtained the CE
So.
at this stage?
So back to our board orientation, I don't know. I would, if they didn't complete their CE, at this point, I would tell them whatever the board's decision was, and they would go to RICO. This person did not complete their CE, or they only completed X number of hours of their CE rather than the full 20. And then RICO would negotiate with that person, and probably a settlement letter, probably a fine, how much, I don't know, that's between them and RICO. But yeah, that's what would happen. And then the settlement letter would come to us and we would approve it or reject it.
They'll be treated like any other case of someone not filling their CE requirement.
The issue I have though, they didn't have the 2 years to get the CE. Like a normal licensee would. They only
Well-
get 1 year.
And unfortunately, whoever was working with the legislature to create the CE didn't think about that. Or they did think about it and they thought, but they have, they have whatever time they have. I don't know. So,
But unfortunately, we don't have control over that at this time.
No.
right.
Can only mitigate the damages as much as possible. Situation at hand, right?
Right, I was looking at your administrative rules and unlike other professions where there can be a makeup time, like if you missed your CEs for this, you can do, double in the next biennium or something to that effect. So that could be on your to-do list for your administrative rules of which you do have control. It's not in the legislature. And other professions do have the workaround. I mean, some people, not recent graduates, or some people may have extenuating life circumstances, family, medical situations, maternity leave, anything. So they do have different ways that you can still get and do your CE.
So maybe like some professions will give them 3 months to get all of the needed CEs to be done.
I think like California is similar to that, because I was licensed there. And like this person, like they didn't have all their CE time, but since January, they already have 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
I would want to be as lenient as.
So that would carry weight, when RICO looks into this.
I don't think it's.
Yeah,
I
how
think
about
we're
you
trying
know
to
that-
practicing medicine.
Yeah. So if I heard Dr. Woods correctly, you want to be as expansive as possible, so that I think would mean the month of June preceding the June biennium of 2024. So that would be June 1st of 2023. The one applicant on June, who graduated on June 7 would be okay, and the one who was in May would not.
But the one in May has like 24 credits now with that. So like,
So usually what happens when Rico does the investigation, they say, what have you done? And the person would send it, and Rico would say, would you accept these? And I would say, yeah, the board would accept those. Those are good CEs. And that generally reduced, because part of the Rico settlement is pay whatever this fine is and do the CE, do X number of CE. But this person, and they'd say, okay, you can, these CEs count, you can't use them for next go around, even though they're in this biennium. So they would take that into account.
When you write to her, the one that's outside of the window, the May 13th, and you're gonna send her a letter and tell her can't accept it or whatever.
Right, right.
Can you encourage her to finish her CE so that as it goes through the process, when Rico does contact her, she can say, I didn't complete it by June 30th, but it's done and that
I
might.
could certainly say, yeah. Yeah, that would be something I could say, try to get your CE completed, the 20 hours completed before you're contacted. by
Has to
Rico.
go through the process, but this will help.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Can we, for future discussion, either make more discussion to change the statute or rule change? 'Cause I don't feel right that they're required to do 20 in 1 year. So either if you only have 1 year left in your legal phase, you should only do 10.
So we have rule revisions that, the board did a rule revision that started the process. It's a very long process to change rules. It was with final review with DAG Wong. And then it got stuck with me. I haven't moved it to the next part. If you want, I could.
But not to take away from that process, I think I hear Craig saying that he wants to change the
Statute?
471.9.
No, either one.
I don't think you can do by rule what you want to accomplish.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because you want to change it so it's the first renewal, you don't have to do.
Not
this.
necessarily.
Or to say, if you're within 12 months of the June 30th, then you only do 10.
Correct.
So again,
Yeah.
I think that's a
Is
HRS.
that a-
That's an HRS. Yeah, that would be, you're right. That would be statute. Yeah.
Because the CE hours are listed on HRS.
Yeah, because there's nothing about your CE in your HAR right now. All your rules is in your statute. And the statute says you're gonna do them, so.
So it does have to go to ledge.
Right, and I think, you know, to hearing the sentiment that, you know, the recent graduates really don't need to for 2 years for the whole biennium, that should be the main goal. And then if you do want to have, I mean, would that be your main goal, or
Yeah, it
are you
would be.
saying
It would be.
as a plan B, if you're within 12 months, you only have to do 10? I think the main goal is to exempt for the whole biennium for 2 years.
No, that's-
So do that and not complicate 10 months for 10 credits for 1 year.
Can I just ask these newer guys, do you feel that that's appropriate?
I think that would be much more logical and also easier. You would run into a lot less new grads making the mistake in this particular issue for sure.
I
And
mean, do other states?
that's
Yeah,
what
like
most other
a lot of
states.
states-
The whole biennium.
I've
Yeah.
been
They
licensed in
just skip
South
the first.
Carolina and California, and both of them, like the first, like 2 years, like licensing.
They just skip
Totally
it.
exempt
Yeah.
because you did just come.
So
from-
if you have your timing, as Carrie said, we missed the deadline for administrative bills. The capital A from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. But if you want to approach your friendly local legislator, the bill cutoff is in January or some
About
date
mid-January, yeah.
for them to introduce bills. So they have a later introduction date, if you want to do that fix.
We know somebody.
Great, you had, you know, courtesy relief,
Mhm.
all of that legislation was via
Industry.
Senator Lee.
Senator Lee.
Garcia. So, or representative, I can't remember, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if you want to do that fix, you can make this 2025 session.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you want to do the DCCA bill, it would be in June or July.
Yeah.
next year.
So
So it's just the timing.
So like the woods on it.
so it sounds like the idea is that,
We would
exempt for the first renewal, just straight up.
CE,
Exempt CE for the first renewal.
barring any disciplinary action or complaints or anything like that.
As long as they're clean.
Yeah, we're not gonna say exempt for the first biennium because that's 2 years, right? It would be. And their next standard renewal will be in 3 years. Cause you have 1 year and then the two, you're not acting for it's only for that first renewal period, so that first year.
For the first renewal.
So
Cause
you're,
they're only coming in at 1 year.
so
So
Anytime
anytime,
is when they come in.
So exempt for their first renewal
right,
It's first renewal, yeah.
after licensure.
and I wouldn't mention, you know, you have to be clean or discipline or convictions, it's just. It's
that will
just,
come to us anyway, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
that
just
would
don't
be
have to
a,
do their CE. That'll be a different.
For all the new grads.
okay, so, all right, that's excellent plan moving forward.
Right.
For
So today-
this agenda item, I think what I heard was Dr. Wood suggested and DAG Wong more in-depth explanation is that the board is going to interpret their 471-9B to mean within 1 year to mean in that June period. Not the date.
Yes.
So you want to make
The
that
month of June.
the month of June? Can you make that a motion? Or should I say so motioned?
So motion.
Okay.
And is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any opposed? No, no opposition, so motion move carried forward then.
Thank you so much, everyone. That was very helpful.
Sherry, maybe I can work with you and Carrie to draft the bill and then send it to the rest of the board. Send it.
Well, we wouldn't draft it. You would speak to a legislature. They would need to draft it.
And
Or, I mean,
support
you could give
I think, right?
Arlindo, yeah, I mean, you could just take that section 9 and say, we would like to change this within 1 year
He's gonna
to,
ask me to write it.
I'll send you a brief something you can.
I know what he's gonna tell me, sure.
Okay.
Give it to me in writing and I'll do
I'll
it.
send you something. I'll send you the easiest, quickest way you can provide it. Okay.
So it's still new business 6. Being 2. Right, so this is the second. What constitutes evidence satisfactory and or documentation verifying compliance. So we have a licensee that submitted copies of canceled checks rather than CE certificates as evidence of having completed the required CE. So are these canceled checks considered satisfactory evidence of CE compliance? Do we have, I guess, public testimony for this particular item?
Thank you, Kurt. We do not have anyone with my testimony.
So any discussion on this particular item? We have a certification from 471-9 in our agenda.
Yeah, so 471-9 does not state what satisfactory evidence is. Generally, we accept certificates. We accept the race transcript from race. There's the Western Conference in Las Vegas, they have a little thing that says there's all these classes and these are the ones they attended. We accept that. No one has previously given me checks before. Some of the canceled checks he has provided are to HVMA. But there's nothing that would indicate that if the check to HVMA was for CE. I think he could probably write to HVMA and ask for replacement certificates, or at least a letter from them saying that, yes, we have him registered. But I would like the board to go on record as to if what you want me to do, because I need to have board direction before I write to him. Would you consider these canceled checks proof of, are they satisfactory evidence? That's the first question.
Because you can,
Yeah, I don't think so.
no, you can be paying for all kinds of stuff.
I guess, yeah, ask him to provide receipt or invoice for proof of registration. I don't know if they don't take attendance as far as going through the sessions, like the Western Vet Conference, they're high tech, so you have a badge and they're dinging you going in and out of the door of the session. HVMA, you just register.
But they do have they do have QR codes now for
They
HVMA.
started doing that,
Send a certificate and that has all of the classes and
but
courses.
they're not watching you go in the room.
No, but at the end you sign, like you take a survey and you get the certificate and then you can check off the different classes that you took. And it's a
Oh,
signed
okay.
certificate. So you still, as long as you were physically like walked into the conference and scan the QR code, you get the certificate for it. So
Doesn't provide the information that you would need.
Yeah,
To
it
be
wouldn't say how
satisfied.
many hours.
It doesn't say what the unit, how many units were
Right.
earned or asked, so that in itself is not gonna be sufficient.
So I should tell him that the canceled checks are not adequate because they don't give us the information we need, that he should contact HVMA
Right.
and ask them for verification of his course registration and attendance for the biennial periods. And then HVMA can figure out what they have that they can give him that would say how many hours he had taken. Whether
At
it's
least how many were
thing or-
offered, because
it is a self-monitored, like it's very much a self-monitored, but like when I went to HVMA, like they had QR codes all over the place on like every day, but the last 2 days for sure. And you just scanned it and then you could print out a certificate and it had like little check boxes to hand check the different courses you took. And then you calculate how many CE hours you got out of that with it. So it wasn't like Westerns, but it was a little bit more formal than it's been in the past.
So if they couldn't
yeah, I don't think they'll be
provide the
able to-
certificate itself, they could provide a letter that says we show that he attended X number of CE.
They could tell you that you registered.
Okay.
that weekend had so many hours.
Yeah.
Would you accept that?
I
If
would.
he registered?
I mean, at this stage, yeah.
Better than checks.
Better than checks,
So
yeah.
you have to pay, isn't there, because one of them is to HVMA, but don't you have to pay just to be a member?
Yep, there's membership.
So
act.
like, how do you know if that one is
Well, that's where he's
the
got
conference versus like membership?
that's why we need the invoice from the HVMA.
Yeah,
see,
because I'm like, I think
otherwise-
I've paid that one too for my membership.
Well, you can also attend without being a member. too, right? You can be a
I
non-member.
can't remember. I know I went last
Yeah.
year for, but yeah. I haven't-
So if I'm hearing you correct, you would accept the certificates if they could generate those. You would accept an invoice for his registration that showed it was registration for CE.
Yeah. For the conference, for the
Or-
annual meeting.
Okay. Annual meeting, because that's where the CE is.
Right. And verification, how many hours were offered at that meeting?
Okay. All right. I would appreciate a vote saying that canceled checks, that the checks submitted are not evidence.
I move that in regards to
Cancel checks.
canceled checks alone are not considered adequate for documentation of CE.
Second.
Any opposed? No opposition, so motion carried forward. Okay, so the next,
Just want to make
uh-huh,
a comment. The one thing that bothers me is he says, his first statement is, I quit practicing veterinary medicine 20 years ago. And yet he still wants to be licensed. And as we so diligently said in the beginning of the meeting about our role as board members, it is to protect the public, not to protect the doctor. So for a man or a person who has quit practicing veterinary medicine 20 years ago, but now wants us to verify his CE and allow him to continue to carry that license, makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, he also said, while he says he quit practicing, he also says, but he helped his daughter and some other vets form a partnership and he's helped out. So he's practicing a bit. So it's a good thing he's kept his license. We'll just say that.
We'll see if he comes up with a document.
so the next item in new business is 6.3. So, this is in regards to a provision granting an extension to complete continuing education hours. So, is there anyone offering public testimony for this particular item?
Maybe, Chair, there's no one rejecting my testimony.
Thank you. So this is a case our licensee is requesting an extension to complete the required CE as they have been taking care of an ill family member. So chapter 471-9 does not have any provisions for extensions. So for our discussion today has, if our board has the authority to grant an extension or not. And it's just, do we wanna?
That's the one you can do by rule.
Yeah, or if we're to putting this through, we could add a for cause such as illness. One of my other boards has can grant the board in its may grant extensions for illness or active duty military service or something like that.
So there are a lot of other boards and professions that you can refer to as samples. Whether it's in the HRS or the HAR, they're like extenuating circumstances that gives them 3 months or however long, or do the double in the next biennium or whatever accommodation you want to give them.
What combination do you want to give them?
So right now, give them 2 years, an additional year. To earn their CE.
How many CE hours is it again? Is it
20.
20 and 2 years.
And you can do it all online if you so choose. No.
So I think like my medical board, they try and make it easy on themselves and they just say do double in the next biennium. So you don't have to check after a year. You
Just make sure they have 40.
40 in the next biennium. I don't know, it's up to you.
Interesting. I mean, you have any extension? We don't have any extension in real estate. You do your 20 in 2 years, so you lose your license.
Or you get written up and then You have to meet.
Yeah, or, yeah, you lose your license and then you have to go back and then you have to apply again and you have to go through all of that. So the
Settlement.
question then becomes, I understand. Yeah, there's an issue of the working, trying to get your CE. But shouldn't you be kind of like planning for all of this? I mean, like, come January, I'm already mapping out what months I've got to take it, because one year I freaked out because we were in October and I had like 12 more, I mean, CE. I was freaking out, like, how and where, but they have it online. The sad part with real estate, you can just pay, log in, and you can walk away. And then every so often you have to go back and answer a question. I don't know if that's how you supposed to do it with a veterinarian CE, but I mean, it
They
was.
don't do that with pharmacy. that's for sure. And you
think you
wouldn't
work a little
want to
harder.
be-
I know, and so, we were getting very upset because that's cheating. That's cheating, but anyway. Let me say myself.
So, so. Yes,
Take a deep
Um,
breath.
so we need to decide for this person, do our statutes, because the rules are silent, do our statutes give the board authority to grant an extension, yes or no? Then we can decide if we would like to change, so.
Do the statutes important?
There's nothing in the statute that talks about extensions.
Did they get a board manual, like, with all their HRS and HAR in it? The new people?
Dr. AC has not signed her oath yet, so she doesn't have one yet, and I don't know if we've sent it yet.
Not
yet,
like
not yet.
the
Too
board
soon.
manual, just.
Too soon.
meeting minutes.
So no, our statutes don't mention extensions, so I brought it to you to see if you can see anywhere in there that you have the authority to grant an extension. I did not, but
But not at this time.
not this time, okay. So,
I'm so glad you're here, Sherry.
She has
So,
18 hours done.
they've completed 18. I don't know if that's, I don't remember because it's been a while since I looked at it. If it was prior to the,
Maybe we can do the same.
yeah, they were done before, they were done when they were in the biennium, so that she's only lacking 2.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe we need to tell her,
Mhm.
sorry, not at this time, but go ahead, finish it. They're gonna contact you. By that time, you'll be good.
Yeah. But if the board wants Dr. Wood to perhaps, since she's asking for a change in the statute anyway, from a senator, from a
Might as well get it
legislature,
done.
we could maybe
Certainly faster than rulemaking.
add an H or add to yeah, add an H that states the board may, or cause, the board may grant extensions for illness or military duty or anything else the board thinks is an adequate reason.
Addition.
Extenuating circumstances, we could ask her to add that. We could decide if we want her to ask for just do double the next time if the extension is granted, or if we want to give, the board that I'm thinking of, they look at each one and see how many hours they're short and make a determination on when they have to complete those hours. However you want her to ask. So does the board have a preference?
Pretty easy to complete 20 hours ultimately. That's what I think.
Let's say 3 to 6 months.
You go 6 months.
6 months. For an extension for extenuating circumstances.
No more than,
Got it.
no more than
So
6
this is
months.
CE For CEs only, right?
Yeah, this is just CE, yeah. Someone
Because you
didn't
do-
finish
because
it.
You do have something for active duty.
Yeah.
That the license won't expire, but it doesn't address CE.
Yeah, it doesn't address CEs, it just says, I mean, I guess you could, the board could interpret that to mean that it covers CEs, but it's not really about CE there.
We'll make it more clear.
Yeah, so,
All right.
okay. All right, we didn't technically vote on that, we just decided we don't have the authority, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm just making sure I know what I'm doing, after the minutes.
That's okay. So the next item is item C, legislative liaison. Is there anyone who would like to provide public testimony for this particular item?
Thank you, Chair. There's no one wishing to provide testimony.
Thank you. Okay, so this is so timely. So Chair is asking, is there anyone who is willing to act as a legislative liaison?
So as we've stated, the legislature is getting ready to start next month, about halfway through the month, and they're gonna go through, July technically, but usually things wrap up for our part around June, May or June. But we only meet quarterly, right? So if something came up in between meetings, if it's something I could just speak to, someone the board has entrusted to give their insight to, or just to give me advice, to speak on behalf of the board, or kind of like give me a clue how the board would think on an issue. One or two people that I could just call on and say, hey, this bill came up. This is what we did last year. Do you think our position has changed, or this, we've never discussed this before. Do you guys want to opine, or do you think I should try to call a meeting? Is there someone who'd like to do that?
Well, we don't have to go.
You do not have to go speak to the legislatures. I will do that on your behalf, like I've done before. But if someone wants to speak to the legislature, I'm okay.
It's kind of nice. So they ask questions.
Yeah, a lot of times the chair will go and speak if she's available. Last year, it always fell on a day you were unavailable, so I spoke to the legislature on the bills that were before them. But do I have anyone who'd like to volunteer to be someone I can reach out to?
Well, I would like to volunteer both Dr. Craig and Dr. Lisa. They were gracious to do it last year. We need vets, we can't do it as public members, so then we can share the responsibility.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're okay with that? Dr. Wood?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I think it might be nice to include maybe one of the younger members, because Craig and I are gonna sunset out. Say that.
Maybe let them get their feet wet and see how the process goes before we ask them to
But we
be.
can copy them on the email so they can see what the.
Well, we have to be careful not to put our sunshine laws in jeopardy. If I get too many people involved, then we have to have a meeting. So we're open to the public.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, so we get too close to,
So 2 board members max, probably.
yeah, I mean, 3 is pushing it. That's
Yeah.
awfully close to quorum, yeah. So maybe next year after they've been here a little bit and they kind of see how it works. And of course, if it's something big, I wouldn't just talk to the two of you. I don't know, we really should have a meeting on this. The only thing I remember from last year that may come up again this year, either in its old form or in a new iteration. If you recall the one bill where they wanted to piggyback veterinarians onto the John Burns educational thing.
We know about that.
Yeah.
That's what we just got.
But it kind of died because it.
But he's gonna
It's gonna
resubmit.
get.
Yeah, I figured that might come back up again, but that is specifically for doctors. I mean, there's federal funding and it's very
Veterinarians on.
specifically written on who gets those monies and who can use it. So that's why it kind of died. the medical board kind of explained that to whatever legislature was trying to put through. But I know I've been asked recently how many vets we have in the state. What our need for vets are, et cetera.
Versus licensed,
Yeah, so,
different numbers.
but I don't know the difference. All I know is how many people are licensed. I don't, there's no question on renewal. Are you currently working?
Right.
Are you practicing? We don't ask that. So
For any profession, I don't think.
that's the only thing that's on my radar that might come up. I'm not aware of any other issues out there at the moment. There may be something because I was blindsided last year. I had no clue that they were gonna put tail docking on that whole bill about what owners could and could not do. But that's all I know. That's all I've got on my radar right now. So thank you, Dr. Nishimoto, Dr. Wood. I hope I don't have to tell
Thank
you
you
too
very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So agenda item 7, so our next scheduled meeting is March 19, 2025. And you'll be in the Queen Liliuokalani conference room downstairs.
which is where we generally meet. It's also online.
Are we confirmed? With no other further business, the meeting is adjourned at 11:33. And my son is at the restaurant.